The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of Morrison and Associates, casting long shadows across the polished marble floor of the corporate lobby. The building hummed with the quiet energy of another workday beginning, but beneath the surface, tension lingered like morning fog. Marcus Thompson adjusted his expensive suit jacket and checked his platinum watch as he stepped out of the executive elevator. At 38, he had built an empire from nothing, and his success was written in every sharp line of his tailored clothing and every cold glance he cast across the office floor. His footsteps echoed through the corridors, and conversations died wherever he walked. The employees of Morrison and Associates had learned to read the signs. When Marcus wore his charcoal gray suit, it meant budget cuts were coming. When his jaw was set in that particular way, someone was about to lose their job. This Tuesday morning, both signs were present, and the office held its breath. Sarah Chen had been working in accounting for 3 years, and she still felt her stomach clench whenever she saw Marcus approaching. She watched from her cubicle as he strode past, his expression darker than usual. Behind him trailed Jennifer Walsh, his assistant, frantically taking notes on her tablet while trying to keep pace with his long strides. "I want those quarterly reports on my desk by noon," Marcus snapped without looking back at Jennifer. And if the marketing team thinks their campaign proposal is acceptable, they clearly don't understand what quality means. Jennifer nodded quickly, her pen trembling slightly as she scribbled down his words. She had been Marcus's assistant for 2 years, and the stress had begun to show in the dark circles under her eyes and the way she jumped at unexpected sounds. The coffee station near the break room had become an unofficial gathering place for employees to share their frustrations in hushed whispers. David Rodriguez from IT often found himself there, stirring sugar into his coffee while listening to the latest stories of Marcus's harsh treatment. "Did you hear what happened to Tom in sales yesterday?" whispered Elena Vasquez from Human Resources. Marcus called his presentation, embarrassingly amateur, right in front of the whole team. David shook his head sadly. "That's the third person this month who's been humiliated like that. I heard Lisa from marketing is already looking for another job." The atmosphere in the office had grown increasingly heavy over the past year. Marcus's success had made him wealthy beyond measure, but it had also made him increasingly impatient with what he saw as incompetence. His criticism was sharp and public, his praise non-existent, and his expectations impossibly high. But on this particular Tuesday, something was about to change. At exactly 9:30 in the morning, the elevator doors opened to reveal a young woman with warm brown eyes and a gentle smile. She wore a simple blue dress and carried a worn leather purse that had seen better days. Her name was Maya Rodriguez, and she was about to start her first day as a cashier in the company's small cafe on the 15th floor. Maya had taken the job out of necessity. Her previous employer had closed down, and she needed work to support her elderly grandmother and her younger brother who was still in college. She knew nothing about Marcus Thompson or his reputation. To her, this was simply a new beginning, a chance to earn an honest living in a clean, professional environment. The cafe was a small space tucked away near the main conference rooms, serving coffee, sandwiches, and light meals to the busy executives and employees who couldn't spare time for proper lunch breaks. The previous cashier had quit suddenly. The week before, leaving only a hastily written note that said she couldn't take the stress anymore. Maya spent her first few hours learning the cash register and familiarizing herself with the menu. The cafe manager, Mrs. Patterson, was a kind woman in her 60s who had worked for the company for over 20 years. "Now, dear Mrs. Patterson said quietly as she showed Maya around, "there are a few things you should know about working here. We serve some very important people, and they can be demanding. The key is to stay calm and professional, no matter what." Maya nodded, her natural optimism undimmed. "I understand. I've worked in customer service before. I'm sure it will be fine." Mrs. Patterson smiled sadly but said nothing more. The lunch rush began around 11:30, and Maya found herself serving a steady stream of well-dressed employees. Most were polite, if rushed, and she enjoyed the rhythm of taking orders and making change. She had a natural warmth that seemed to brighten the small space, and several customers complimented her friendly service. Then, at exactly 12:15, the cafe fell silent. Marcus Thompson stood in the doorway, his presence filling the small space like a storm cloud. The few customers who had been chatting quietly suddenly found urgent reasons to finish their meals and leave. Within moments, Maya found herself alone with the most feared man in the building. Marcus approached the counter with the confident stride of someone accustomed to having the world bend to his will. He didn't look at Maya as he spoke, his attention focused on his phone. "I'll have the usual," he said curtly. Maya blinked, her smile never wavering. "I'm sorry, sir, but I'm new here today. Could you please tell me what your usual order is?" Marcus finally looked up from his phone, his gray eyes cold and impatient. "Are you serious? How can you not know my order? What kind of operation is Mrs. Patterson running here?" Maya felt a flutter of nervousness but maintained her composure. "I apologize for the inconvenience, sir. If you could just tell me what you'd like, I'll be happy to prepare it for you." Marcus's jaw tightened. This is exactly the kind of incompetence I'm talking about. It's your job to know these things. I'm Marcus Thompson, the CEO of this company, and I shouldn't have to explain my order to every new employee who can't be bothered to prepare properly for their position. The harsh words hung in the air like smoke. Maya could feel the weight of his anger, but something inside her remained steady. She had dealt with difficult customers before, but more importantly, she had been raised by a grandmother who had taught her that every person deserved to be treated with dignity and respect. "Mr. Thompson," she said quietly, her voice calm but firm, "I understand you're frustrated, and I sincerely apologize for not knowing your order in advance. But speaking to me disrespectfully won't solve the problem. If you'd like to tell me what you usually order, I promise to remember it for next time. If you'd prefer to go somewhere else for lunch today, I completely understand." The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus stared at Maya as if she had spoken in a foreign language. In his world, no one questioned his tone or his treatment of employees. No one had ever suggested that his behavior was anything less than appropriate. For a moment, his anger flared even brighter. Who was this cashier to lecture him about respect? He was about to unleash the full force of his displeasure when something unexpected happened. He really looked at Maya for the first time. Her brown eyes held no fear, no defiance, no challenge to his authority. Instead, he saw something he hadn't encountered in years. Simple human dignity. She wasn't trying to humiliate him or prove a point. She was simply asking to be treated like a person. The realization hit Marcus like a physical blow. When had he become someone who needed to be stood up to? When had he started treating people so poorly that a simple request for basic respect felt like rebellion? Marcus began, then stopped. For the first time in years, he found himself at a loss for words. Maya waited patiently, her expression kind but unwavering. "Would you like some time to decide what you'd like to order, sir?" Marcus felt something shift inside his chest, like ice beginning to crack. "I usually have a turkey sandwich," he said quietly. "No mayo. And black coffee." "Turkey sandwich, no mayo, and black coffee," Maya repeated with a genuine smile. "That sounds perfect. It'll just take me a few minutes." As Maya prepared his order, Marcus found himself really looking at the cafe for the first time. It was a pleasant space, clean and welcoming, but he noticed the way the remaining customers glanced nervously in his direction. He saw how Mrs. Patterson hovered anxiously near the kitchen, clearly worried about what might happen next. When Maya handed him his sandwich and coffee, their fingers brushed briefly. "That'll be $8.50, please," she said warmly. Marcus handed her a $20 bill, and when she started to make change, he shook his head. "Keep it," he said, then paused. "And Maya?" "Yes, sir. Thank you. For the sandwich, and for—" he struggled to find the right words. "For treating me like a human being, even when I wasn't returning the favor." Maya's smile was radiant. "Everyone deserves kindness, Mr. Thompson. Even CEOs." As Marcus walked back to his office, his sandwich in hand, he felt as though he was seeing his company through new eyes. He noticed the way employees quickly looked away when he passed, the tension in their shoulders, the relief on their faces when he moved on. That afternoon, Marcus called Jennifer into his office. She entered with her usual nervous energy, tablet ready, expecting another barrage of demands and criticism. "Jennifer," Marcus said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. "Please, sit down." She perched on the edge of the chair, waiting for the storm. "I owe you an apology," Marcus said simply. I've been treating you poorly, and it's not acceptable. You do excellent work, and you deserve to be spoken to with respect. Jennifer's mouth fell open slightly. In 2 years of working for Marcus, she had never heard him apologize to anyone. Over the following weeks, the change in Marcus was gradual but unmistakable. He began saying good morning to employees he passed in the hallway. He started acknowledging good work publicly instead of only pointing out mistakes. When he had criticism to offer, he delivered it privately and constructively. The transformation wasn't instant or perfect. Years of harsh behavior couldn't be undone overnight, and Marcus sometimes caught himself falling back into old patterns. But each time he did, he remembered Maya's calm words and made an effort to do better. Maya, meanwhile, had become something of a legend in the office. Word spread quickly about the new cashier who had stood up to Marcus Thompson and lived to tell the tale. But more than that, employees began to notice that their encounters with the CEO were becoming less frightening and more human. 3 months after Maya's first day, Marcus made an announcement that shocked everyone. He was implementing a new company policy requiring all managers to complete training on respectful workplace communication. He also established an anonymous feedback system where employees could report concerns about treatment by supervisors. I've learned recently, he said during the company-wide meeting, that success means nothing if it comes at the cost of our humanity. We're going to do better, starting with me. Sarah Chen found herself crying quietly at her desk after the meeting. For the first time in years, she felt hopeful about coming to work. David Rodriguez discovered that Marcus actually knew quite a bit about information technology and had some valuable insights to share, once the fear of public humiliation was removed from their interactions. Elena Vasquez watched as the number of stress-related complaints in HR dropped dramatically, and exit interviews began to reflect a more positive workplace culture. One evening, as Maya was closing up the cafe, Marcus appeared in the doorway. He looked tired but more peaceful than she had ever seen him. Maya, he said, I wanted to thank you again. You changed my life that day, you know. Maya looked up from wiping down the counter, her expression thoughtful. I don't think I changed anything, Mr. Thompson. I think you just remembered who you really are underneath all that armor. Marcus smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. My grandmother used to say something similar. She said that sometimes we build walls so high to protect ourselves that we forget there's still a person living inside them. Your grandmother sounds like a wise woman, Maya said gently. She was. I think she would have liked you. Marcus paused, then added, I've been thinking about her a lot lately. About the values she tried to teach me before success and pressure made me forget them. As the seasons changed and the office culture continued to improve, Maya's impact rippled outward in ways she never could have imagined. Marcus began mentoring young executives not just in business strategy, but in leadership and emotional intelligence. The company's employee satisfaction scores reached record highs, and productivity increased as people felt safer to contribute ideas and take creative risks. But perhaps the most significant change was in Marcus himself. He began taking real lunch breaks, sometimes eating in the cafe where he could chat with Maya about books they had both read or her grandmother's recipes. He learned to laugh again, to admit when he was wrong, and to see his employees as complex human beings rather than simply resources to be managed. 1 year after Maya's arrival, the company held its annual holiday party. As Marcus looked around the room at his employees laughing and celebrating together, he felt a profound sense of gratitude. The business was more successful than ever, but more importantly, it had become a place where people actually wanted to work. Maya stood near the refreshment table, chatting with Mrs. Patterson and several other employees. She had become the heart of the office in many ways, the person others turned to for comfort and wisdom. Her quiet strength had not only transformed a feared CEO but had helped create an environment where everyone could thrive. As the evening wound down, Marcus found himself standing beside Maya near the large windows overlooking the city lights. Do you ever regret it? He asked quietly. Standing up to me that day. It could have gone very differently. Maya considered the question seriously. I don't think I could have done anything else, she said finally. My grandmother always told me that we teach people how to treat us. If I had accepted disrespect, I would have been teaching you that it was okay to treat people that way. Marcus nodded slowly. She sounds like an incredible woman. She is, Maya smiled. She's actually the one who taught me that everyone is fighting a battle we know nothing about. Even CEOs. As the last of the party. Guests headed home, Marcus realized that Maya's simple act of standing up for herself had given him something he hadn't even known he was missing, the chance to become the kind of person his grandmother had raised him to be. The office building grew quiet as the night deepened, but the warmth of positive change lingered in every corner, a testament to the power of one person's courage to demand basic human dignity and another person's willingness to remember their better self.